This is IGN. Burned on the outside, undercooked in the middle. This is your IGN review of Evil Dead Burned by Tom Jorgensen. For as straightforward a conceit as the Evil Dead franchise has traded on for over 40 years, read from the cursed book, Awaken the Vengeful Deadites, it's always been something of a magic trick to watch how far each movie can push that conceit while still remaining true to the creative spirit of Sam Raimi's 1981 original. Raimi's sequel set some very loose boundaries in that regard, but Fede Alvarez and Lee Cronin's later takes each found varying degrees of success adapting the story into a more modern cinematic context. By comparison, Evil Dead Burn, helmed by French director Sebastian Vanecek, doesn't meaningfully add much to the conversation. An extended prologue sets Evil Dead Burn squarely in the aftermath of the events of Rise, as a couple of unlucky fishermen find out what happens to those who indulge in outdoor recreation while Deadites are on the prowl. Burn quickly catches up with a new set of characters, led by Alice, played by Suelia Rakoub, a French expat grappling with the recent death of her abusive husband Will Price, played by George Puller, and a set of in-laws who are struggling to find a way forward through all that with Alice. Once the Prices hunker down at the family farm, their connection to the fated Necronomicon comes into focus, and, if you can believe it, they come under assault by Deadites who are out to recover an artifact in the family's possession. Once the action moves to the farm, Evil Dead Burn closely adheres to the familiar Dead by Dawn structure favored by its forerunners. Overwrought stylistic choices further hamper the cohesion between Evil Dead Burn's action and thematic efforts. Not only do cutaways to a fight between Alice and Will really stretch to explain why burning and fire become such common motifs in the story as it goes, but brief though they are, these jumps out of the confines of the Price farm hurt the momentum of the Deadites' onslaught. It's a minor thing, but it's emblematic of how Vanecek bumps against other more important pillars of the franchise. The Price family falls neatly into horror archetypes. Will's brother Joseph, played by Hunter Doohan, a struggling author, serves as Burns' primary vehicle for delivering Necronomicon-sourced information. There's also uptight mom Susan, emotionally repressed and explosively angry dad Edgar, and cognitively declining yet at times spookily lucid grandma Polly. Archetypes can be useful for keeping a story moving, but in an Evil Dead movie, the Deadites are usually more unsettling when they're playing against their victim's personality, so Evil Dead Burn's supernaturally fueled heightening of the Price's character flaws feels a little rote as a result. But amid all the disgusting Deadite mayhem, an Evil Dead film usually leaves room for a laugh. The franchise has always had a particularly complicated relationship to comedy, since Evil Dead 2 eschewed the original's intensity with its more mischievous pitch and redefined horror comedies forever in 1987. Evil Dead Burn does make occasional overtures towards dark humor, particularly through Grandma Polly, who functions here a little like Henrietta in Evil Dead 2, but Vanecek doesn't have a great handle on when or how to break the tension by leaning into laughs, especially given the dark subject matter Alice is contending with. One moment where a Deadite is trying to convince Polly that there's a thief in the house with what amounts to a very conversational, oh yeah, totally, pushes the Deadites a little too far into broad comedy, but Vanecek shows an unmistakable preference for shocking grotesquerie throughout Evil Dead Burn, and on that count, he doesn't disappoint. Evil Dead Burn is by far the most violent and oppressive Evil Dead movie yet, but even with Alice's struggles to move past her late husband as a sensible narrative hook, it has very little in the way to say with all of that sound and fury. Director Sebastian Vanecek scores the occasional visceral win as he sets the Deadites loose on a family already at its breaking point, but the series' signature sense of humor and the Kandarian history that serves as Evil Dead's backbone are woefully underdeployed, leaving Burn feeling stuck between different modes of horror storytelling that have all done better in the past. Evil Dead Burn's IGN score? 5 out of 10. Thanks for listening to IGN. My name is Tony Jackson, and for the latest Evil Dead Burn updates, visit us at IGN.com.
Spoken Layer.